Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later because we've got a bit of budget Missing Link to check out today. And I kind of want to stress that's not how I see this thing necessarily, although I guess it kind of is, but we're inevitably going to do some comparisons with Missing Link Convoy, right? Like, that's why we're here. Before all of that though, I should say that today's review is brought to you by TF Source, so you will find a link to their site in the description below and you can check them out for all your Transformers needs. For now though, it's worth saying that this toy is a bit of an oddity in many ways. I think it's so hilarious that Takara Tomy did a reproduction of the original G1 Optimus toy, and then Hasbro have done this version, which is sort of an attempt to modernize that same design but with a new figure, and they've come out in the same year, all to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the brand. I don't know, it's just one of those weird situations that is utterly bonkers, but I kind of enjoy it. First things first, I'm absolutely living for that artwork along the side. It's gorgeous, and I think that's a big part of the appeal of this release, is just the way that it does evoke the memories of the original toy, even though it isn't actually that same figure. I mean, that art just sings. But anyway, let's go ahead and get him open. And I'm not going to lie, I did debate on this one whether I was going to get it or not, because I have been enjoying Missing Link so much. I wasn't sure if I needed it, but I don't know, he's just so cute. Like, look at this little guy, honestly. It definitely ended up being like a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be originally, which is kind of funny, but actually I think it probably worked out for the best in some ways. Like, it sort of makes it stand on its own merit. Because we've got one of those little paper parcels of accessories as well. That's all the rage nowadays, isn't it? I feel like I'm getting ready for Christmas here, honestly. What we got? We've got some bits. Matrix, battle axe, and 2 guns. Did not expect 2 guns. Anyway, here's the lad himself. And yeah, definitely a lot smaller than I might have anticipated. I had seen some pictures that indicated that was the case, but still, in hand, it's a little bit of a revelation, but I absolutely love it for that. It is a deluxe class toy, so should be anticipated, I guess, but still, he's quite adorable. Not to be underestimated, though, because it definitely has the vibes, right? Like, it absolutely has that G1 Optimus Prime toy energy, so I'm loving that. Like, sure, the finish may not be as premium as Missing Link or whatever, but I feel like this probably achieves a lot of the same goals in many ways. Like, I can imagine that this would be the figure that people have in their mind's eye when they're imagining their childhood Optimus Prime. Like, if they grew up with the original, this would be the figure that they would imagine they always had in some weird way. And we've seen that with Missing Link. I think this does that too. Like, he absolutely has that strong G1 toy come to life vibe going on. And I think the proportions are really good as well, except it manages to do it in a way that doesn't look weird. It's pretty successful on first glance, honestly. Like, for starters, that head sculpt is gorgeous, really, really nice. It's got the yellow eyes, it's got the little divots in the sides of his faceplate, the molding is really sharp, the paint is good, really like that silver, it's brilliant. And there is a bit of light vibing going on, you gotta get it just at the right angle, but when it lights up, that's really lovely. Quite strange to see that little yellow bar on the top of his head though. There's quite a bit that I like about the chest. Firstly, little transparent windows, which look really, really good. The silver paint again is nice, the grille is good, some nice sharp molding along the top here as well. But what I really appreciate here is that they've actually used an inset piece, another piece of plastic for the windows, which you really don't get a lot of these days, and it looks so much better than this being a whole sort of piece that's just been painted in red. I much prefer this as a solution, way better. Of course, whilst we got the chest open, we might as well pop his little matrix in there. It's a little translucent blue piece, and yeah, it looks pretty nice. Like, quite funny to see them give a new matrix mold to this guy, right, but not to Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, released in the same year. So I don't know why that tickles me, but it does. I actually really like the look of that. The more I look at it, the more I think it looks fantastic. He won't be able to hold it because he's just got statically molded hands, but you know, even with the chest closed up, that looks pretty good, I think. You can just about see it poking through the little windows there. Great job. Got his little Tampoed Autobot logo just on there. That's kind of nice. Weird to see that the hands are painted blue. You can see the evidence of that inside the fist. I don't know why I would have expected these to be separate pieces, but evidently I did. And hey, rubber tires. That I did not expect. They even come off and everything. These are actual rubber tires on a toy in 2024. What are we doing? This is great. Same is true of these back ones as well. These are also rubber. And yeah, you know, there may be no chrome, but actually the silver paint does look really lush, so I can live without it. I understand why a toy like this does not have chrome, let's put it that way. And as expected, there's no die-cast either, but I really don't feel the need for it in this toy. It would feel kind of superfluous, if anything. I mean, maybe a couple of extra decals might have been nice to kind of evoke the look of the original toys, a little bit bare on the legs, but overall, I really dig the look of this thing. I think they've nailed it. And in some ways, you know, I really understand the appeal of this thing over over the missing link, or indeed a reissue of the G1 toy. I mean, stuff like the fact that they filled in the back instead of having that little hole that the original does, which I know does bother some people. It doesn't me, because that's the original toy. It's part of the charm. But I also see that this going a different route is perhaps an advantage to some people. And oh my word, I didn't know this at all, but the tyres read Cybertron Radial along the side. I just saw something there and had to see what it said, but that is the brand of tyre, the made-up brand of tyre, that featured on all the Binaltech toys back in the day. I'm a little bit shocked by that. That's such a deep cut. Wonderful. No, I really love this thing. So let's talk about these two guns, because I think that the fact that there are both of them is a real sign of like the reverence that's gone into this release in many ways. I mean, evidently it's based on a running change from the original toy where the gun design was tweaked slightly. I think most people will be more familiar with this one with the little L on top, but it is quite nice to have both. And then here you can see that version versus the one that comes with the recent retro reissue Optimus, just to kind of see how close it is. It's really quite remarkable. And it does mean that Optimus can wield both, which is kind of cool to see, like major Generation 2 vibes in a weird way with that one, but they are quite a snug fit into the hands, but still they look great when they're in there. Even with just the one though, I gotta say, I'm loving how this looks. It's really working for me so far, this toy. You can also store one of the guns in his backpack as well, in a nice touch. You've then of course got his little orange battle axe from the pilot episode, which is standard fare for every Optimus Prime toy released after 2003, I think, and that does look really nice, quite simple but effective. Doesn't quite cover the hand, which is a little bit of a shame, like it should really kind of peg down further into that fist, but honestly it's not the end of the world. Oh yeah, he's working it, baby. He's working it. I'm absolutely digging this thing. Now, articulation wise, there's a lot going on, and the head is really good because it can look up a little bit, which is actually something that the missing link can't do, and turn all the way around as well, so it's on a ball joint. Arms are pretty good. I mean, the shoulders will go back a little bit thanks to the transformation, but also all the way up and over, and then up to about 90 degrees. You've got a similar 90-degree bend in the elbow, and of course you've got a little joint there as well, nothing in the hands. Now, there is some waist articulation, and it's funny to see that these sort of skirts with the wheels on and the way this bit folds forward, it's not that dissimilar to Missing Link, actually. And just pulling that forward does enable you to swivel him at the waist, which is actually better than the Missing Link. I think that actually does work better, it does give you more range. And then the hips will come up to about 90 degrees. You've got a little rotation in there as well, thanks to that mushroom peg, and you get about maybe just a smidge, tiny smidge over 90 degrees at the knee, as well as very decent ankle tilt, and indeed a bit of movement in the toes thanks to the transformation, all of which makes him tons of fun to mess with. Like, it's got all the articulation you would want from a design like this, and maybe even a little bit more, and as I say, it does kind of have that vibe of the G1 toy just kind of come to life. It's really good. Anyway, in terms of comparisons, here you can see him with the Studio Series Optimus Prime on the left and the Earthrise Optimus Prime on the right. Three very different takes on the same character, all kind of within the Generations mainline banner, if you will. And I think it's really fun to see. I know there are going to be people that are like, oh, another G1 Optimus Prime. And I get it, I do. But at the same time, these are such different toys that I can't feel mad about that. Honestly, I think they're all worthy in their own different ways. This year alone, we've got what many will consider to be the ultimate cartoon-styled mainline Optimus Prime. And now we have the toy-styled version as well, right? Like, we're being treated very well this year, and these two are complete evidence of that. Or how about the fact that we've got a cartoon-styled toy version of the character alongside a toy-styled cartoon version of the character, right? Like, wrap your head around that for whatever's going on in the 40th anniversary. And yes, I'm talking about Hasbro's retro Optimus Prime and Takara Tomi's MP44S right here. Like, it makes me wonder, actually, would we ever see a toy-styled version of Studio Series Optimus and a cartoon-styled version of this Legacy G1 Universe Optimus Prime? I don't know. Maybe they would do that. That would be quite good fun, I think. But of course, the ultimate comparison is surely with Takara's Missing Link Convoy, isn't it? And it's a strange one because, of course, the G1 Legacy version is so much smaller, but actually I think that's a good thing. Like, when I first noticed how small it was, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit surprised, but I think it's worked out well because it sort of avoids this direct competition thing that could have otherwise happened. I think you can have both of these, and although they do sort of shoot for the same thing, they feel different enough in a weird way. Like, don't get me wrong, inevitably there's going to be comparisons, and I've already seen people referring to this new toy as the budget Missing Link, as I joked earlier, but I don't think you need to do that, honestly. I think they can coexist. I'm happy to have them both on my shelf. I think that, you know, the Missing Link for me is a direct recreation of the toy that I've known since childhood. This very much evokes that same spirit, but it handles in a very different way as well. It feels like a new experience that just happens to also evoke that same memory in a different way, I guess. I think maybe the rear view kind of demonstrates that better than anything in a weird way, because, you know, the missing link has got that big hole in the back of it. You know, it's a completely unapologetic kind of recreation of the original toy, whereas the G1 universe is not that. It's a new thing. It's a new design that takes many cues from that, but it's a built from the ground up proposition, and it comes with some advantages in that regard. And for clarity, that's absolutely not me saying, hey, I wish they'd filled in the back on Missing Link Convoy, because I'm so glad that they didn't. Like, that to me is the whole point of that toy, is that it's that direct one-to-one recreation. But I'm also very happy to see this new figure that kind of gives the spirit of it, but that I'm going to be very happy to sit and play with. I mean, at the end of the day, it's two great toys. What's not to like? And then finally here you have him with the anime repaint of Missing Link on the left and the Missing Link Sentinel Prime, the gorgeous Sentinel Prime on the right. And it does kind of make me wonder if we might see more repaints of this legacy version as well, you know, in blue or yellow or whatever colour under the sun. I'd be very up for that personally. I'm always a fan of a weird Optimus Prime recolor. Now, let's talk transformation, and the first thing you've got to do is rotate these hands around, and it's a bit of a strange mechanism because you kind of got to pull it up like this. Now in the instructions it folds seemingly quite easily all the way back, but on my copy it really does not want to go. And this piece of plastic here, the one that's folding, feels very flexible, feels very bendy. I'm not sure I'm liking that. It just feels quite bendy, but it feels like if I'm going to force it too much, it might not be good news, right? So I'm going to try and just transform them. That little bit of give just there. Don't like that too much. It is most definitely the same on this side as well, so I mean I really can't push it down much further than that without fear of maybe breaking something. So again, it's sort of the thing where you gotta very subtly just try and slide it out like that and try and not scratch the paint, so a little bit concerning. Anyway, now that's done, we can fold away the head, so you just open up this little backpack, fold his little head down like so, and then push that back up. This next part's going to start to feel very familiar for anybody who's ever handled an Optimus Prime before, because of course you just push the arms back like so, bring those little elbows up, and that just kind of clicks in on the backpack. Same on this side, just move up that elbow and then fold this piece back to click into place, and then go ahead and connect the legs. Seems the trick to it is to get these heel pieces to kind of click in, and then that's giving you the clearance needed to fold these bits in at the sides. That's very familiar, honestly. That really has the vibes. I'm sure you might have figured out the rest, but of course you just fold the legs back into place like so, and then fold the toes up. And I'm just finding a little bit of gappiness on mine. This has got kind of that squishy feeling that you get sometimes where things just won't peg in quite properly, so I'm hoping that'll ease off over time. Overall though, pretty fun transformation. I mean, apart from that little bit with the hands, it's all very plain sailing and definitely has that kind of G1 toy vibe again, which I'm kind of here for. I'm really enjoying. And the resulting vehicle mode is super cute as well. I mean, again, it just feels like that classic toy in so many ways, but a little bit smaller, kind of dinkier, super cute though. And as I say, I'm actually happy that this thing is so much smaller than Missing Link and it's kind of got that different design. It just gives it a very varied appeal, and it's very clean as well. I mean, it cleans up really nicely at the back here. It looks good at all angles. Really like how the silver catches the light along here, and again, some will be sad not to see chrome, but I think this works well. Rolls really nicely on a flat surface, you know, all the wheels make contact and everything, so that's good. Definitely can't seem to do much about that gappiness at the front here. It's just, again, it's got that kind of spongy feel to it, so that's a little bit of a shame. And there is a bit of weapon storage back here as well, because you can put two guns either side of the truck bed, like so that's pretty cool, like as he's kind of firing behind him somehow. And they can actually apparently fix the axe on there also. I mean, the instructions show it just clipping in there, but that doesn't really it definitely doesn't clip in securely at all, so it's not really a feature in my opinion, but the guns is cool. Alternatively, he does have a little hitch for a potential trailer at the back here, and what better size trailer could you give him than the Earthrise, right? I did not have this thing coming in handy in 2024 on my bingo card, let me tell you. Am I crazy, or does that work surprisingly well? It actually looks in proportion with this guy. It always looked undersized to me with Earthrise Prime or whatever, and this works? I mean, it certainly makes more sense than your classic G1 trailer, let's put it that way. That looks a little bit oversized, but maybe he's just a bit of a workhorse, I don't know. Actually, the Studio Series isn't too bad either. I mean, he's definitely undersized. He kind of looks like Huffer in the cartoon when he's pulling Prime's trailer, but It could work at a pinch. Anyway, here you can see him with a couple of the other generations primes of late. I mean, you've got the Earthrise in the middle, and then you've got the Studio series on the right, and you can see the size difference there. He's definitely the wee one of the bunch, and I honestly really kind of appreciate him for that. I like that they've gone for a smaller scale with this thing. It sort of stops it being in direct competition somehow. Then you've got him here with the retro G1 Optimus Prime, that anime-styled version of the original toy that was released just recently. Video on the channel, by the way. And again, this is just super fun to see. I think the kind of variance that we're getting of this character at the moment, for me, is just super interesting. Really though, surely the ultimate comparison is with Missing Link Convoy, and as I said earlier, I kind of feel like these both do something slightly different, even though they are shooting for the same thing. I think the size difference definitely helps, and it sort of avoids that feeling that, you know, one is trying to outdo the other, or that you can only have one of the two on your shelf, or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, it's probably only fair to acknowledge that the Missing Link is kind of the toy that I and many of us have been dreaming about now for however many decades, so in that regard, you know, the Legacy figure is always going to have a bit of a tall order to truly top it, but I think the real thing that I'm acknowledging here is that it doesn't really need to. It actually sort of sits alongside it as quite a nice companion piece, if anything. Like, there's definitely something about having basically the original toy almost one for one, except with articulation, and that's kind of its own separate dream project. But I also love this new figure. It's smaller, it's got tons of play value, it's really nicely articulated, and it's fun to fiddle with. And I think, honestly, there's a lot to be said for that. I suppose what I'm trying to say here is that for all this talk of budget Missing Link, or whatever other nicknames are being applied to the Legacy figure, I think, honestly, it doesn't really need the comparison. It kind of stands on its own merit, it's a decent figure in its own right, and for my money, it's a very definite toot. Now, as I mentioned before, this video is brought to you by TF Source. You'll find a link to their site in the description below, and you can check them out for all your Transformers needs. I'd also be very grateful as ever if you could leave me a like for this video, please, but otherwise, that's it from me. So have a great rest of your day, and TTFN.